the guys that I thought this up with, they did the Lego Movie and 21 and 22 Jump Street. So I've known them for a long time, and we decided we wanted to try to write something together. And you can't work with two better guys who are more talented and funny than Chris and Phil. We have been friends for 18 years, something like that, and they gave me my first acting job on Clone High. I was a voice in that show. It was an MTV animated show, and we've been friends for years. But this, they got a deal at the Studio 20th, and they said, "Do you want to come in and write something?" So we thought up ideas together. We landed on this one, and I went out and wrote it up. It is a show about a guy who finds himself, there is a virus that has swept across the world and taken the lives of everybody, and I play the guy who's immune to that virus, and I'm trying to figure out what to do with myself now. And then it takes a bunch of twists and turns. Once we came up with the idea, the actual arc of the season came out pretty quickly, but that was just a very general, broad strokes document, maybe 10 pages long. But most of it we stuck to.
And it's not all bad. I mean, in the old world, I could never live in a house like this.
Phil is not a perfect person, obviously. Has a lot of flaws, and the situation that he was presented with, messed with his mind for a while. So he kind of refound himself and became centered once again, but he just went a little crazy for a little while. It's just like any person. I think it's tough to say what you would do in this situation, but I think everyone would probably go a little nuts if they were one of the only people on Earth, or for a while thought they were the only person on Earth.
It's incredibly fun and incredibly painstaking at the same time. It's harder to figure out what you're going to do, because there are endless possibilities and you got to pick one. So you just want to make sure you're picking the right area, and every once in a while you'll get off track, and we try to right the ship again.
Salud. It's a $10,000 bottle of wine, by the way. Goes great with the SpaghettiOs. That was like a $400 sip.
We knew roughly how many people were coming in. We knew, girl, boy. And then we thought there was maybe a group of 4. We thought maybe a kid was coming in. There was going to be some pregnancy stuff in the first season that we decided, let's hold off on that. But it's interesting how stuff changes around. We did a cow instead of a kid. It's an insane amount of work, yeah. I mean, it's every second of it's acting, writing, I'm in on the editing, you're on the set, and it's not walk briskly to the editing room, it's run everywhere. And it sounds like poor me, but I'm doing what I love, but it's a tremendous amount of work. It's all day Saturday, all day Sunday. I don't see family, I don't see friends. It's like a careful what you wish for, but it's also, I get to work with, some of my best friends. I get to create a show that I'm really proud of, and the hard part was that we made it for spring, our first season. So when Fox came back and said we want to do it for the fall, and we want to do 18 instead of 13, then that basically gave us no downtime.
Hey, okay, I get it. Nobody's coming. You're not giving me anybody. Well, guess what? I don't even care. I don't need people. Okay, I can make it work on my own. Watch me.
I think that I thought, I'll just live my life and be discovered. But here's this kind of schlumpy looking dude. Who's gonna discover me on a, you hear old Hollywood stories of, Marilyn Monroe types who got discovered walking. People like me don't get discovered. You have to really work very hard. So after a while I realized, there's no scenario in which anybody would ever discover me unless I work towards it. I would be the person they would say, could you step aside? I want to discover that person behind you. So somewhere along the way, decided I'm going to try to act And to me, telling people I wanted to go into comedy was almost like bragging. It was saying, hey, I think I can make it in comedy. I think I'm really funny. And that felt weird and gross to me. But I went and told the people at the brokerage firm, I'm going to give it a shot. And I will always, everyone was actually very supportive, except there was this one woman that I'll always remember. It said like, well, you'll be back, or something like that. Like, no, just the worst thing you want to hear, something like, just, oh, do you know how many people try to do that?
Rough day. Hey, can I have a whiskey? You want a whiskey, Gary? You sure? How about you, Jimmy? Okay, well, does anyone want a whiskey? Kevin? Anton? No, really? Nobody?
I started at the Groundlings and got my first job from sketches that I had written for the Groundlings. So I was starting to work my way through and writing at the same time. So right when I finally made it to the performance level of the Groundlings, I got a job on my first sitcom and then went to Letterman and I would say my main influences were, definitely Saturday Night Live, Steve Martin, Peter Sellers, and Letterman. We spent a lot of time writing the pilot because it was, Fox was stressed out because it was just very different, and they were so supportive, but they were rightly nervous about it, and we were nervous about it. But that episode really was, I'm really proud of it, and I'm proud of all of them. But that one I lived with for the longest because it was the germ of the idea. And Chris and Phil getting to direct that, getting to work with Kristen for the first time, and it was a very special. The whole thing's been special, but that was before the workload just sat on me. We just spent so much time thinking about this scenario, and you just realize, God, what would you do? You take for granted how everything works. I wouldn't know how toilets work, or what do you do about electricity? There are just so many things you wouldn't have access to anymore, and wouldn't have the knowledge to fix. So it's it's a very interesting situation. We tried to approach it, from that angle. Like, what would you actually do if you were in that situation?
Ah! What are you doing? What are you doing?
I was doing mouth to mouth.
Where did my mind would go?
You passed out. You wet your underpants. I thought you were dying.
I did not wet my underpants.
Carol knows that Phil, even though he did act like a dumb donkey and a skunk and a dog, I think that she knows that he's also kind of a puppy and maybe a little bit of a, a helpful beaver. And she sort of sees the good inside Phil or Tandy or whatever. Like, she's like the one person who knows that he's a good person on the inside. And I think that eventually towards the end of the season, I think Tandy, Phil, did come around to Carol too and realize that she is a good catch.
She is the most optimistic one, and of the group, I think. Besides Tandy's pretty optimistic.
Well, working with both these girls and guys, was very difficult. But I had to just go to a real dark place inside and think about that. Yeah. Get my lines done with, and then when my coverage was over, I'd break.
It was really nice working with January because she's really good at the dramatic stuff, and she was just so there and so down, and she was just like, she was a great person to react to.
You swim in that?
If I swim in it, I drink out of it. There's really no wrong way to use a margarita pool. You know what I mean?
That's the thing about the show is we try to keep things secret, just so we can go to unexpected places, and if you give stuff away, then I don't know. So even like little things like that, we always like to keep people guessing, and I think at a certain point, introducing new characters became expected, character introductions. So we want to make sure we're we would only do that at carefully planned places where it would be least expected. So it definitely would not be as many character introductions as in the last season, but we're still writing.
It could be hundreds.
We knew very fully how we would handle the cliffhanger version leading off into a 5th season, but we weren't sure how we would do the final ending of the show.
Yeah.
There were a couple things along the way, a couple ideas along the way. One of how to ultimately end it. One of them was this idea of talking of the very final segment of the show would be me in the offices at Fox, pitching them the show, and then them asking, okay, so we understand all that, but what is this show about? And then it would just be me sitting there for like 3 minutes, and then just going, I don't know, and then it would end.